I never thought I'd fall for two men at once, especially not one I grew up calling uncle. But it happened. It started with glances. It grew with secrets. And it ended with my marriage in ruins, my heart ripped apart, and the man I betrayed, walking away from both of us. This isn't just a story about infidelity, it's about temptation, trust, and the cost of crossing lines that should have never been touched. Before we begin, I just want to take a moment to thank all my loyal subscribers. Your support means everything. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of our dramatic, heartfelt stories inspired by real life. Your love helps us keep these emotional journeys coming, one story at a time. They say betrayal hurts most when it comes from someone you trust. But what about when it comes from two people, one you loved, and one you loved like family? My name is Amanda Westbrook. I'm 32 years old. I live in a quiet Missouri town where the biggest excitement is a 4th of July parade and weekend BBQs at the lake. For most of my adult life, I've been married to Tyler. He's a good man, at least he was before everything started to fall apart. We got married young, right out of college. Tyler had charm, ambition, and a crooked smile that made me feel like the most beautiful girl in any room. We bought a little house with white shutters and a worn porch swing. I planted flowers in the front yard. He worked hard at the factory, rising to a shift manager. We were ordinary, but we were happy. And then there was Garrick. Garrick wasn't my real uncle. He was my mom's cousin's son, 10 years older than me. But growing up, everyone called him Uncle Garrick. He'd ruffle my hair, let me sit on his shoulders at family picnics, and always gave me candy I wasn't supposed to have. As I got older, he changed in my eyes. Still kind. Still playful. But also, handsome. He had a square jaw, deep green eyes, and the kind of confidence that made you lean in just to hear what he had to say. When Tyler and I got serious, I reintroduced them, and they became instant best friends. It made sense. They had the same sense of humor, loved sports, and enjoyed teasing me like I was their little sister. We became a trio. Garrick was around for every birthday, every barbecue, every random weekend beer. He helped Tyler build our deck, fix the sink, even helped me paint the nursery when I was pregnant, though that pregnancy, sadly, ended in miscarriage. Looking back, maybe that's when things started to shift. I didn't see it then, but the cracks were forming. Tyler grew quieter after our loss. He worked longer hours, buried himself in side jobs to keep busy. I understood, grief is strange. But I missed him. I missed us. And Garrick? He filled the silence. He showed up with takeout when I didn't feel like cooking. He listened when I vented about Tyler's distance. He made me laugh again. And I let him. One night, I was sitting on our porch alone, wrapped in a blanket. The wind was cool and the stars were scattered across the sky like confetti. Tyler had canceled our dinner, again. Garrick showed up without asking, holding 2 cups of coffee from that little 24-hour diner down the road. "Figured you'd be out here," he said, settling beside me. "I'm always out here lately," I replied, half laughing, half crying. He didn't speak for a moment. Just handed me the coffee and sat with me in the dark. It was quiet, too quiet. And it was comfortable. Too comfortable. That night, he told me something I didn't expect. "You know, you've always been more than just little Amanda to me," he said, his voice low. I turned to him. "What does that mean?" He smiled, but it wasn't playful. It was sad. "Forget it." I just meant. I've always cared about you. That's all. That should have been my warning. That should have been the moment I stepped away. But I didn't. I was lonely. I was hurting. And I wanted to feel like someone still saw me. In the weeks that followed, Garrick came around more. Tyler didn't seem to mind, or maybe he just didn't notice. When you trust people, you stop looking for red flags. And that's how it starts. Not with a kiss. Not with a lie. With silence. With glances. With secrets hidden between lines that haven't been crossed, yet. One Saturday, we were in the garage together, looking for an old photo album. Tyler had gone out of town for a fishing trip. I remember brushing past Garrick to reach the top shelf. My hand slipped. He caught me by the waist. And I didn't pull away fast enough. His hand lingered. So did mine. We both said nothing. But the silence between us screamed louder than words ever could. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, guilt twisting in my stomach. What was I doing? Why did my body react the way it did? Why didn't I stop him? Because part of me didn't want to. I kept justifying it. We hadn't kissed. We hadn't done anything wrong. It was just a moment. A second. But I knew better. He wasn't just my uncle. He wasn't just my husband's best friend. He was now the man holding a piece of me that no one else had touched in years. And that was only the beginning. There's something dangerous about feeling seen when you've been invisible for too long. After that moment in the garage with Garrick, his hand steadying me, our eyes meeting, I tried to shake it off. I told myself it was nothing. I had to. Because what was the alternative? Admitting that I was starting to feel something for my husband's best friend? For the man I'd grown up calling uncle? I buried it. Or at least I tried to. But feelings have a way of rising, like smoke from a fire you thought was out. Garrick didn't mention what happened. Not directly. But the air between us was different after that. He started texting me more, little things like, "How's your day, Mandy? Want me to bring by that movie we talked about? Tyler working late again?" I told myself it was just friendly. He cared. That's what friends do, right? But I started changing my clothes twice before he came over. Started putting on lip gloss when I knew he'd stop by. Small things. The kind of things a woman does when she wants to be noticed. One afternoon, Tyler was working the night shift, and I was home alone. Garrick texted asking if I'd eaten. I hadn't. He showed up with Chinese takeout and that same crooked smile that used to make me feel 10 years old, safe, protected. Now it made me feel like a woman. We sat on the couch, side by side, chopsticks in hand, some crime show humming in the background. I don't even remember what we were watching. I just remember how close he sat. Our knees touched. We didn't move. He glanced over at me, his eyes softer than they should have been. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, even though I wasn't. I hadn't been for months. "You're not alone, you know," he added. "I see you, Amanda. Even if he doesn't." My breath caught. That was the moment. The moment I knew we were in dangerous territory. Because I wanted to hear those words. I needed them. But I didn't respond. I couldn't. Instead, I stood up and said something about needing to put the food away. But my hands were trembling as I cleaned up the table. He stood too. Walked into the kitchen behind me. "Garrick, I think," I started, but before I could finish, he stepped forward. "I'm not trying to mess up your life," he said gently. I care about you. And I don't think Tyler sees how lucky he is." I turned to him, heart pounding. "You're married too," I whispered. "You have a wife." He looked away. "Yeah. And I haven't touched her in over a year." The silence that followed was deafening. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want them. Because deep down, I knew we were standing on a cliff. And one more step. He didn't kiss me that night. But he wanted to. And the truth is, I wanted it too. When he left, I pressed my back against the kitchen door and let out a shaky breath. I felt like a sinner in my own home. That night, I laid beside Tyler, his arm draped across my waist, his breathing steady in sleep. I stared at the ceiling again. Guilt and longing. loyalty and desire. It was all there, twisting, choking. The next day, Garrick didn't text. Nor the day after. I should have been relieved. But I wasn't. By the end of the week, I found myself at the grocery store he always stopped at after work. Pure coincidence, or so I told myself. And there he was, standing by the frozen foods aisle, holding a bag of peas. Our eyes met. He didn't smile. Neither did I. I just walked up, heart hammering, and said, "We need to talk." He nodded. "Yeah. We do." We sat in my car. Not touching. Not even looking at each other for a minute. "I don't want to be this person," I said. "I love my husband." He stared out the window. "Then tell him how you feel. Because if you don't, I might not be able to hold back next time." "Don't say that," I whispered, even though I needed to hear it. "I mean it, Amanda. I don't want to hurt you. But I've been in love with you for years." Silence again. Then I said the thing I never thought I would. "I think about you too. More than I should." That was it. The confession that broke everything open. We didn't touch that night. But we both knew the line was gone now. What came next would be a choice. And we both knew we weren't strong enough to resist much longer. Tyler was on another business trip, an overnight in Portland. He kissed me on the forehead before he left. Told me to stay cozy. I smiled and waved. And I hated myself the moment the door closed. That evening, I didn't expect Garrick to come over. I hadn't even spoken to him in 3 days. But around 7:30 p.m. Just as I curled up on the couch with a blanket and a glass of wine, I heard his truck pull into the driveway. My stomach flipped. I didn't move. I just sat there and waited. Then came the knock. 3 soft taps. When I opened the door, I saw him, standing there in the rain, damp hair, a look on his face I couldn't read. "I shouldn't be here," he said. "Then why are you?" I asked. He stared at me for a second. "Because I can't stop thinking about you." I didn't invite him in. Not with words. I just stepped aside. And that was enough. He walked in slowly, like even he wasn't sure what would happen next. I poured him a glass of wine, hands trembling. We didn't talk much. We sat, again, side by side, the television playing some old movie neither of us watched. The silence between us was thick, but not uncomfortable. It was waiting. "I dreamed about you," he said suddenly. I looked over, eyebrows raised. "What?" "I dreamed we were somewhere else. On a beach. Laughing. Like none of this was wrong." I swallowed hard. "That's not real," I said. "That's a fantasy. Doesn't mean I didn't want it." I set down my glass. "You need to leave." "I know," he whispered. But he didn't move. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and for a moment, I thought he would stand. But instead, he turned his head. His eyes locked with mine. "I've loved you since you were 23, he said. "And I've hated myself every day for it." "Stop," I said, voice shaking. "Please, Garrick. I would have traded everything to be the man who got to wake up next to you." Tears welled up in my eyes. He reached out, gently touching my hand. "Tell me to leave." "If you say it, I will." My lips parted. But no sound came out. And just like that, he kissed me. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't forceful. It was slow, warm, and full of years of longing. A kiss that tasted like guilt and need and heartbreak all wrapped in one. I didn't stop him. We didn't stop. One kiss turned into 2. 2 turned into his arms wrapped around me, carrying me toward the bedroom. There, in the dim light of the room I once shared with Tyler, we crossed the line. It was desperate and tender. It was wrong, and it was real. And it changed everything. When it was over, we laid there in silence. I stared at the ceiling, the same ceiling I used to count when Tyler worked late. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel loved. I felt like I'd torn something inside me that could never be put back together. Garrick turned to me. We can't go back now, can we? I shook my head slowly. No. We can't. He kissed my shoulder. Then I won't pretend anymore. He left just before sunrise, when the sky was still bruised with night. I watched his truck drive away from the window. And I stood there for a long time, wrapped in my robe, wondering if what we did was about love. Or about loneliness. The days that followed were quiet, too quiet. Garrick and I didn't talk. We didn't text. He didn't stop by, and I didn't reach out. But everything felt different. I'd sit across from Tyler at breakfast, pretending to drink coffee while my stomach churned. He'd talk about his meetings, how exhausted he was from travel, how he missed being home. I nodded. Smiled. Said what any good wife would say. But I wasn't a good wife anymore. One evening, Tyler came home early, unexpectedly. I was just putting away the laundry when I heard the garage door open. I rushed downstairs, heart racing. Not because I had something to hide at that moment, but because I was always on edge now. Every little sound made me feel like I was about to be caught doing something I wasn't even doing right then. He stepped into the house, dropped his bag by the door, and kissed me. You okay? He asked, noticing the flush in my cheeks. Yeah, I said, brushing past him. Just warm. He followed me into the kitchen. You been alone all day? Yeah. Why? No reason. Just, you seem off. I shook my head and busied myself with the dishes. But his words sat in my chest like a weight. You seem off. I was off. A week passed before I saw Garrick again. He showed up at the grocery store while I was pushing a half-empty cart through the cereal aisle. Amanda, he said behind me. I turned and froze. He wore that same blue flannel I loved. The one I'd clutched in my hands the night he left my bed. Hey, I said. My voice cracked. He looked around, checking for anyone else. Then his eyes met mine again. Can we talk? There? I nodded toward the parking lot. He followed me out. We stood by my car, the air cool and quiet. No one nearby. I miss you, he said. You shouldn't say that. Why not? It's the truth. I looked away. This, whatever this is, it's going to destroy everything. Maybe it needs to. I whipped my head toward him. You don't mean that. He stepped closer. I mean that I've lived my whole life doing the right thing. Watching someone else build a life with the only woman I ever loved. And now, for once, I want to be selfish. I swallowed hard. You're my husband's uncle. I know. And his best friend. I know that too. I shook my head. This is wrong. It always was. But it felt right, he whispered. I didn't answer. He leaned in, and for a moment, I thought he'd kiss me again. But I stepped back. I can't, I said. Not here. He nodded slowly. Then when? I didn't respond. Later that night, while Tyler was asleep beside me, I got a text from Garrick. Tell me you regret it, and I'll disappear. I stared at it for 10 minutes. Then I turned off my phone. But I didn't delete the message. The unraveling began slowly. Tyler started asking more questions. Where I was. Who I'd seen. Why I didn't answer my phone during the day. Small things. Subtle. But it was enough to stir panic in me. One evening, he came home holding a box of mail. Garrick sent something over to the house, he said, tossing a small envelope on the table. Said it was for you. I stared at it, trying to keep my face still. "What is it?" Tyler asked. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a folded sheet of paper. One sentence, handwritten. I meant every word. No name. No explanation. I folded it again and slipped it into my pocket. "Just a joke," I said lightly. "He's always messing around." Tyler raised an eyebrow, but didn't press. He just walked off toward the bathroom. I stood there, heart pounding, realizing for the first time we weren't as careful as we thought. One night, after dinner, Tyler stood at the sink, washing dishes while I dried. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Sure." "Do you think people can fall out of love and not realize it?" I froze. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," he said. "I've just been thinking lately, about us. About how we used to be. You know, when we were younger." I didn't say anything. "I miss that version of us," he continued. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Me too." He looked at me. Really looked. "You'd tell me if something was going on, right?" "Of course," I lied. He nodded. "Okay. But we both knew. We both knew something had already happened that couldn't be undone." The guilt was like a vine around my chest, tightening every time Tyler looked at me with trust. I was waiting, every day, for it all to come crashing down. And I knew it would. Because secrets don't stay hidden forever. Especially the ones you swore you'd never tell. It didn't happen in a big, dramatic blow-up like I'd feared. It was worse. It was quiet. Icy. Controlled. One Saturday morning, Tyler came downstairs with a look in his eyes I hadn't seen before. He sat across from me at the kitchen table, holding a folded piece of paper in his hand. "Amanda," he said softly, "we need to talk." I felt my stomach drop. "Okay," I whispered. He slid the paper across the table. I didn't need to unfold it. I knew. It was one of the notes Garrick had written. Not the one mailed to the house. A different one. One I thought I had thrown away months ago. Apparently, I hadn't. "I found this in the guest room," he said. "Behind the dresser." I stared at it. "I didn't know what it meant at first," Tyler continued. "But I kept it. Then I started watching you." His voice cracked. "I watched how you looked at him. Or avoided looking at him." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. "I'm not stupid, Amanda." He leaned forward. "Was it just once?" The question hit me like a brick. I could have lied. I could have said it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, a one-time thing. But he already knew the truth. "No," I said. "It wasn't just once." He looked away, blinking hard. "With Garrick?" he asked, even though he already knew. "Yes." Silence fell between us like a wall. I wanted to reach for his hand, to say something, anything, that would soften the blow. But there was no soft way to tell your husband that you betrayed him with the man who stood by his side at your wedding. The man who held him when his father died. The man who promised to always protect him. "I need you to leave," he said finally. "Tyler. I need space. I need time. I need you gone." So I packed a bag. I didn't even fight it. I left him standing in the doorway, staring past me like I didn't exist. I checked into a cheap motel down the highway and sat there alone with nothing but my guilt and the reality that I had ruined everything. 3 days passed. Then I got a call from Garrick. "Does he know everything?" he asked. "Yes," I whispered. There was a long pause. "I'm sorry," he said. But it didn't matter. Sorry couldn't glue a shattered home back together. Tyler didn't answer my calls. He didn't respond to my texts. The only message I got was from his lawyer, asking for a meeting. We didn't even fight over the divorce. It was clean, civil, fast. Just like the unraveling. I moved in with my sister for a while. Got a job at a bookstore downtown. Something small, something quiet. I saw Garrick only once more. It was by chance, at a gas station just outside town. He was pumping gas. I was walking out of the convenience store. He looked older. Tired. Just like me. We locked eyes. No words. Just pain. And then I got in my car and drove away. People always ask if I regret it. And the truth is complicated. I regret hurting Tyler. I regret losing our marriage, our home, our life. But I don't regret feeling something real, even if it was wrong. Because for a while, Garrick made me feel seen. Wanted. Alive. But the cost? Too high. I traded stability for passion. And in the end, I lost both. Now I live quieter. Simpler. I don't date. I don't chase feelings. I sit with my past like an old wound that never fully healed. Because love, real love, isn't just about how someone makes you feel in a moment. It's about what they're still standing for when everything falls apart. And I learned that lesson far too late. That's the end. Thank you again for following this story. If you'd like to explore another tale just as gripping, or even more dramatic, just let me know. I'm here to bring your storytelling visions to life.